9 minutes before 8. When he was Surgeon General, Dr. C. Everett Koop was America's most outspoken critic of smoking. He is now out of government, but he is not out of the fight. And Dr. Koop is joining us from Boston this morning, where later today he's going to address the World Conference on Lung Health. Dr. Koop, good to see you again.
Good morning. Nice to be here.
We have talked a number of times about passive smoking and the dangers of same, and I'm going to get to this trade issue in a moment, but I noticed there is a paper today that's going to be presented to the conference quantifying, I should say, the greater risk of heart disease because of passive smoking. I gather they've now got it pinned down.
I think that's some of the big news. They actually now estimate about 46,000 non-smokers die in the United States every year because of the smoke of smoker cigarettes.
And you are in much greater danger as well if you grow up, I gather, or have smokers in the house.
Children are at much greater danger. They have many more cases of bronchitis, bona fide pneumonia, and some British studies show that you can show a slowing of development for as long as 6 years if both parents smoke.
Interesting. I know I mentioned earlier this is a world conference, and it is interesting because I know you've been very involved in an anti-smoking campaign, but it is moved now, I gather, or you want to take it to questioning the export from this country of cigarettes.
Yeah, Charlie, we have beaten this country, but they have had to turn to get their victims overseas. And I think it is absolutely the height of hypocrisy for this country to worry about the import of cocaine from Colombia at the time that we are exporting disease, death, and disability in the form of nicotine to the third world. And to call it a trade issue and not a health issue is a cop-out. That's using the same kind of doublespeak that the tobacco companies use.
Well, that's exactly what the Secretary of Health and Human Services is calling it, saying it's a trade issue to some extent as much as it is a health issue.
Well, it is a trade issue, but on the other hand, we don't export arms to certain countries, and that's our decision. And if another country doesn't want another form of death brought into their country, I don't see why we have to force them to do it. Remember, Thailand has its own cigarettes, but they don't advertise them. You open the doors to American cigarettes, and the smoking will go up 10% in Thailand in the first year, and the cost to that country 15 years from now will not be payable. It'll be so enormous.
Well, Dr. Koop, I was listening to Dr. Sullivan, who was on television yesterday talking about this, and he said in countries where there are anti-smoking campaigns, we will work with them. But if countries have open markets to cigarettes, then American cigarettes ought to be able to compete.
Well, I don't believe that, because we are dealing with something that we know is lethal. It kills 390,000 of our citizens every year, and if we can't face this issue here in the country where it's been present since before the revolution, that doesn't mean that we have to impose the same terrible problem on other countries that don't yet have it. I don't think that's good international care.
What would you have the government do? Simply ban the exportation of cigarettes?
I would have them back off. I don't think you ought to threaten a little country like Thailand with trade sanctions if they don't want to have Marlboro go in that country and flood it with advertising and promotion the way they have done in Japan and Korea. We sold both those countries down the drain on the same issue in the last 5 years.
So how far would you take this? I mean, would you ban the exportation straight up?
I would not ban the exportation to a country that wants it, but when a country like Thailand says, keep out of our internal affairs, I think that we should do that.
All right, Dr. C. Everett Koop, thanks for being with us.
Pleasure, sir.
Good to see you again. 5 minutes before the hour, and Good Morning America continues in just a moment.